Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace, the VRAJALILA Devi. And all glories to assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Mother, we thank you so much for being here with us today. And we also want to thank you for your flexibility, because you were supposed to speak yesterday and something came up and you adjusted your busy schedule to speak today. So we thank you. Without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hari Hari, thank you, Saha. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you, everyone that's here on the call. Appreciate that you're here. I see Lauren, Kinsey, Quincy, Loka Devi, Hare Krishna Africa, Hari Hari, hey, Shalika Prabhu, Nitai Gauranga. Obeisance to both, to all of everyone here. I'm grateful to be on this call, actually. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchavam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamurdayat Nasta Prasya Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, text number 9. Sadhiyatma Sadhidaivascha Sadhi Bhuta iti Tridha Virat Prano Dasha Vidha Ekadha Hridayena Cha. The translation, synonyms, okay. Sa'adhiyatmaha, the body, the mind with all the senses. Sa'adhidaiva, and the controlling demigods of the senses. Cha and Sa'adhibhuta, the present objectives. Iti, thus. Tridha, three. Virat, gigantic. Pranaha, moving force. Dasa, vidha. Dasha, vidha. Vidaha, 10 kinds. Ekadha, the one only. Hridayena, living energy. Cha, also. Srila Prabhupada's translation. The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1, in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, and he is the one heart whose life energy is generated. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita 7.4.5, it is stated that the 8 elements elements, earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego are all products of the Lord's inferior energy. Whereas the living entities who are seen to utilize the inferior energy originally belong to the superior energy, the internal potency of the Lord. The 8 inferior energies work grossly and subtly, whereas the superior energy works as the central generating force. This is experienced in the human body. The gross elements, namely earth, etc., form the external gross body and are like a coat, whereas the subtle mind and false ego act like the inner clothing of the body. Okay. I'm just going to read the purport. And usually I read short part and comment, but I'll read to the purport today. The movements of the body are first generated from the heart. And all the activities of the body are made possible by the senses, powered by the 10 kinds of air within the body. The 10 kinds of air are described as follows. The main air passing through the nose in breathing is called prana. The air which passes through the rectum as evacuated bodily air is called apana. The air which adjusts the foodstuffs within the stomach and which sometimes sounds as belching is called samana. The air which passes through the throat and the stoppage of which constitutes suffocation is called the udana air. And the total air which circulates throughout the body is called the vyana air. Subtler than these 5 Subtler than these 5 airs, there are others also. That which facilitates the opening of the eyes, mouth, is called naga air. The air which increases appetite is called krikara air. The air which helps contraction is called kurma air. The air which helps relaxation by opening the mouth wide and yawning is called devadatta air. And the air which helps sustenance is called the Dhananjaya air. All these airs are generated from the center of the heart, which is one only. This central energy is superior energy of the Lord, who is seated within the heart with the soul of the body, who acts under the guidance of the Lord. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 15:15 as follows. Sarvasya Jaham Hridi Sarivishto Matas Mrtigyana Apohanam Cha Vaidasya Sarvaraham Eva Vidyo Vedanta Krit Veda Vid Eva Chaham. The complete central force is generated from the heart by the Lord, who is seated there and who helps the conditioned soul in remembering and forgetting. The conditioned soul is due to the soul's forgetfulness of his relationship of subordination to the Lord. One who wants to continue to forget the Lord is helped by the Lord to forget him birth after birth. But one who remembers him by dint of association with a devotee of the Lord is helped to remember him more and more. Thus, the conditioned soul can ultimately go back to Godhead. This process of transcendental help by the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita as follows. Teisham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. The Buddhi Yoga process of self-realization with intelligence transcendental to the mind, devotional service, can alone elevate one from the conditioned state of material entanglement in the cosmic construction. The conditioned state of the living entity is like that of a person who is within the depths of a huge mechanical arrangement. The mental speculators can reach the point of Buddhi Yoga after many lifetimes of speculation. But the intelligent person who begins from the platform of intelligence above the mind makes rapid progress in self-realization. Because the Buddhi Yoga process entails no fear of deterioration or retrogression at any time. It is the guaranteed path to self-realization. as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 240. The mental speculators cannot understand that the two birds, Svetashvara Upanishad, sitting in one tree are the soul and the supersoul. The individual soul eats the fruit of the tree while the other bird does not eat the fruit, but only observes the activities of the eating bird. Without attachment, the witnessing bird helps the fruit-eating bird perform fruitful activities. One who cannot understand this difference between the soul and the supersoul, or God and the living entities, is certainly still in the entanglement of the cosmic machinery, and thus must still await the time when he will be free from bondage. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanagana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sakachitam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Satadevi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitamine Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamine Hari Hari Bol, dear devotees. So the translation again. The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1, in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force of all movements by 10 kinds of life energy. And he is the one heart where life energy is generated. Okay, so we're continuing with these amazing description of creation and attempting to pray for mercy. Well, we're praying for mercy. We're attempting to try to understand a little bit of how the Lord, how he expands and how he manifests himself in different forms. And we've been talking, I see in this chapter a lot has been explained on the Virat Rupa. And of course, Prabhupada explains to us that in some ways the Virat Rupa can be understood as imaginary. However, it's not really imaginary because it's real in the sense that we hear all of these different energies that are coming from the Virat Rupa, but it's imaginary only to help us to not understand that Krishna is material. That's the important purport, that this gigantic universal form that we see all around us, its material elements and its representation of the Lord, in the sense that everything is coming from Krishna. So that's our basic philosophy. Everything comes from Krishna. Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan. He's enjoying, engaged in his pastimes with his friends, with the gopis. He's having different activities that we can enter in, we can learn about his activities in Goloka Vrindavan. He makes himself so transparent in every situation. And so here Krishna is, we're at this expansion now where the entities, we're having the blessings to be able to understand how we're coming into this world. So Prabhupada mentions here that in the translation, these numbers 3, 10, and 1. Nice numbers, 3, 10, and 1. You know, when everything we do, we normally do in threes, right? When we do some puja, some offerings, we do it in threes. So this 3 is important, really important. And here we understand that this 3 that Srila Prabhupada references, the Adhyatma, the Adhidaiva, and the Adhibhuta, which we understand that the Adhyatma is the subtle senses, you know, that's subtle activities, that's subtle elements that are there in the living entities. Adhidaiva, the demigods that are controlling all of the senses, and the other Bhuta, the gross organs along with the sense objects. And so then we go into that 10, which explains about these sense objects, about the 10 objects. And we understand that they're subtle and subtle and subtle and subtle. So Prabhupada explains to us about the different types of air, life air, that's there within the living entities, just in this translation. And we hear in the Prabhupada actually lists them in the purport, so they must be important. And so it's nice for us to know why is it important to know this? Why for a devotee? I mean, we know the universal form is there. However, we as devotees, we focus on Krishna, right? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord in his two-arm, threefold bending form, right? So who's connected with Srimati Radharani, and normally that's the devotee. We're being trained to enter into Madhurya Ras. We want to have a relationship with the Lord. We want our love to be awakened with the Lord. However, Krishna manifests in many different forms, and living entities wouldn't exist without this Virat Rupa. So it's really important to understand how this Virat Rupa works. How do we work in it? And so these 10 life airs are important because, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the pran, which is through the nose and breathing, that's how we, the air, that life air. And we have a wonderful example of that in our scriptures with the story of Dhruva and Dhruva Maharaj, how powerful he was, with that pran air when he was in meditation because of being so disturbed. When he was in the forest, he actually was controlling all his life airs, all these life airs that Prabhupada speaks about. So much so that he affected the whole universe, not just his own body, not just around his environment by controlling that life air, his prana. He was able to affect the entire universe, pretty much shutting things down where the demigods had to pray, had to go and ask, please stop this boy. What is he doing? What's this little boy doing? And also that's there in the scriptures, but we know even in our own lives, any of us that may have practiced pranayam, and have had some health crisis, some health situation, if we practice pranayam and if we do it properly and correctly, normally we get healed because we are then using the life airs in a way to affect that healing, So there's the pran, there's the apana, and Prabhupada explains all this in the purport, through the rectum, bodily airs, the samana, the udana, the vayana. These are all different airs that's in the body. And then he talks about the 5 subtler airs. and that's Naga, Kirkara, Kurma, and Devadatta. All of them have a function, right? They all, you see, Prabhupada explains. So I was listening to a class recently of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami when he talks about the life airs, and he was explaining how these different airs in the body are all important, because when the body starts breaking down, it's because of one of these life airs getting affected. So he was saying that in order to understand the life airs, it's important to study Ayurveda, because Ayurveda can help us to know the importance of these life airs. Normally we're going along in our bodies and we're just doing things, and we may not always be thinking, okay, how is the food working in my body, in my stomach, right? How does, for example, belching, how does that happen in my stomach and my throat? Um, how is it that I can breathe? These are all questions that is important to understand our own bodies, because when our bodies start breaking down, for those of you that are in the health field, that when these life airs start when they start minimizing in our bodies, the body definitely starts losing its mobility. So in that sense, and we don't want to be necessarily Ayurvedic students, although it's helpful to learn that science. Um, However, just Prabhupada puts this in this purport for a reason, to help us to know that this is all connected to the original form, which is the universal form. And that's where he speaks about the one. The one is the original, right? That all of these different airs, all of these life airs that we have, is coming from this one source. And so, and this one source, Prabhupada explains, is generated from the heart. And this is what's important, right? The heart of the super soul is there within us, each and every living entity, right? Like we can understand Paramatma being in the heart of all the different living entities, all the different entities. So the heart is where the actual life energy lives. It's where where we get our consciousness, is from this the totality of these life airs, and they're coming from this one source. So this purport is really all about understanding consciousness and understanding how consciousness works. So we know the yogis, as we said earlier. We have Dhruva as an example. He was such a yogi. He could control his life airs. And we understand how, he showed us how, by just that focus and that concentration, he was able to attract the Supreme Personality of Godhead just by performing that kind of austerity. So the thing to know is that everything is connected. We're all connected, right? One way or another. We can say, well, it's imaginary because the Virat Rupa is imaginary because it's material. At the same time, it comes from Krishna. Everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what I was thinking about is something that I've heard, again, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj say, is the importance of a person. One person can make a difference, right, in this entire universe or on the planet. Just one person. And we see that when that person is able to give their hearts to the Lord, how the Lord protects that person. So we have the example of Prahlad Maharaj, and how Lord Nrsimhadev manifested himself in order to protect Prahlad Maharaj. We see the example on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the Lord manifested himself for his one devotee, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And of course, he instructs Arjuna on this battleground. All benefiting this one devotee so that this one devotee can be used to help and awaken the hearts of jivas all over the universe, right? All over all the different planetary systems. So this helps us to understand how important every devotee is. Every devotee is vital. Every devotee is important because it's really rare when someone takes to devotional service. Very, very rare. Um, Krishna explains that it's not, one out of thousands may come to him. So we see that, and we that more as Kali Yuga advances. It's more difficult, more rare for a person to really take to devotional service and surrender to the Lord. Mm. And even to explore that the Lord is in their hearts, that's very difficult for most people on this planet. And even sometimes when those persons that have had some introduction to Krishna consciousness, sometimes they may even find it very difficult to connect with the Lord that's there within our hearts because material energy is just so strong. There's so many different pulls that we have in our different environments. So at the same time, for those that have had the opportunity to meet a devotee, to be, for example, somebody that reads the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, if they read that pastime and their intention is to truly learn from Dhruva, then they will understand, about the power of the life airs in our body. And they will understand also about this principle of surrendering, of wanting so much to be able to see or have some connection with the Supreme Lord. And so we as devotees, we have so many different kinds of responsibilities in our lives that may inhibit us in some ways from truly connecting with the Lord in a way where we are and our intention is to truly become pure, because it's not easy in the material realms, where we in most cases devotees have families that they need to take care of. um, they have to sometimes be engaged in the material environment, just to earn money to support their families. And so it becomes sometimes a little tricky, a little difficult. We may have this philosophical knowledge that the Lord is there in the heart. However, to truly surrender to the Lord in the heart, to truly uh, have the desire that all I want is to be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that can sometimes, for some, be a little difficult. It may be more of a of a of a how can I say, maybe in the consciousness, someone may think that's something I would like, right? I would want that. That may be a desire. However, we understand Srila Prabhupada and His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says that Krishna, he actually facilitates the aggregate of our desires. Krishna facilitates all of the desires that we have, the totality of our desires. And that's what Krishna facilitates. So if some of our desires is still connected with material energy, then of course that's also going to be a part of what will be our future, right? Whatever is in our present will be our future. So yeah, so this principle of Krishna living in the heart, I personally wanted to explore that a little more, because Prabhupada explains to us that we need to be careful how we give our hearts, who we give our hearts to. The Lord is within the heart, and the Lord is there watching and seeing everything that we're doing at every moment, is accompanying us, right? We hear that always from the philosophy. Yeah, the super soul is there with us, it's accompanying us. And sometimes, we may really connect with that understanding, and sometimes we may not. So Prabhupada explains that we need to be very careful with our hearts. Our hearts are very precious. One, because Krishna lives there. And two, because we are being guided, through our hearts. We're being guided by Super Soul every moment, at every moment. So to living this world, to be a resident of this world, it's important to understand the quality of our practice. Our sadhana has to be really strong, really strong. Yeah. Um, my husband and I, we facilitate a lot of different groups in for our service. And what I see with a lot of the people that are in our groups, and most are devotees, that the material energy is so overpowering and so strong that if the devotees are not focused on their sadhana, if they are not if they're not taking their sadhana very seriously, then they get overwhelmed by the onslaughts of different things that happen in the material energy, which we often can't avoid. However, if we don't have the tools, if we don't have the tools in our toolbox to address these onslaughts when they come, then we can become very devastated. So I often see many devotees that are devastated by different things that they get challenged with in the world. So it's important to have a concentrated focus on our sadhana, even to understand these verses about creation. This what Prabhupada said in one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita about these airs that he's talking about. I believe he quoted Bhagavad Gita 7:4, which is Bhumepur Natoa Vayu, which is he explains earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energy. And then in that same, in the purport, he explains about this material energy and how it works. And this is why philosophy is important, knowledge is important, to understand how these energies are working and how they impact us, how they affect us. So it's important to understand, the 3 Vishnus and how the 3 Vishnus expands, and it's important to understand, the Virat Rupa and how these material elements are there in the Virat Rupa and how they're there within us. And even though Virat Rupa, everything is coming from that one source, they're also there within us. So if we don't, and I'm speaking for myself, if I don't spend time, which is a part of the sadhana, is to read. A part of the sadhana is to read Srila Prabhupada's books. If I don't do that, then I won't fully understand when I'm impacted by some challenges in the world. If I don't have understanding of how things work in a totality, then I will maybe ask myself questions like, well, where's Krishna when something not so nice happens? Where's the Lord? Or, because I may not have understanding of the different aspects of the Lord, the different manifestations of the Lord, and how that impacts me as a human, as an individual. So here we have these amazing philosophical verses in this 3rd canto, and most of the time, I know for myself, I don't really understand creation. I may theoretically be able to lip service some of the things about creation. However, in my heart, do I really understand the creation? Do I really get the creation? Do I really get that the Lord is within my heart? Do I really understand that if I don't want to continue being a resident of this world, that, I need to engage in the technology that will help me to not be a resident in this world. So the technology that is important is to be able to hear about the glories of the Lord. Of course, to chant, call the Lord's holy names, right? At least those 2 primary of the 9 different technologies that we have. Those 2 aspects of the technology are most important for us to keep moving through all this, all the material energy, all the different things that are in this material realm that we're in. It's important to, to focus our attention on what is really important. As I said earlier, our future is an extension of our present. So if we're not focused on our sadhana, if we minimize our sadhana, then that's the future that we're creating for ourselves. And that future that we're creating it will be another cycle. That's just what it is. That's how it works. We take birth again and we come back to take up from where we left off. There's no loss or diminution in that. However, we can definitely speed up the process for sure, by grace and mercy and by our endeavors and our intention. That will help us to move through all the different challenges that we get and not get so stuck. Oftentimes, we see devotees can become really stuck. I know my own self. There have been times when, I've been challenged just in devotee association, not even thinking about someone that's not a devotee, but myself as a devotee, just in interacting with other devotees, I may be challenged by having expectations of those devotees. Maybe those devotees don't act the way I want them to act. They don't say the things I would want them to say. They may have their own perspectives about how they want to practice. And then I may become stuck, in that, oh, I have this expectation isn't being fulfilled. And in that stuckness in my own devotional life, I can miss the opportunity, to be able to move a notch closer to Krishna, a step closer to Krishna, because I stay stuck in another person's perception that I think I can change because of my expectations. And that may or may not be possible. So I've seen myself go through periods like that as I've grown and as I try to grow in my Krishna consciousness. I've been practicing Krishna consciousness now for, I was thinking about this the other day, 47 years. And I think after 47 years, Krishna, please, let me stop getting stuck. Let me stop staying in places for sometimes. I remember the last time I got stuck, it took like 2 years for me to get out of that place, And it's all in the mind, actually. At the end of the day, it's all in the mind. We create all these different scenarios and all these phantasmagoria of how we want things to be in the mind. And when it's not there, then we sometimes commit offenses. We sometimes just, for me, my go-to was just to isolate from everybody. People don't really understand. They don't get it. They have their perceptions, whatever. And so in isolation, though, that's a form of being stuck. And so unless, of course, we take that period of isolation to understand things like we're reading today about the creation, about understanding these life errors, understanding these verses that your prophet has given to us in the purport to help us understand. He says in 1515, Sarvasha Chaham Hridi Sanivishto, he says all these errors are generated from the center of the heart. So the heart is important. So let me spend some time trying to understand, from reading the Vedic scriptures, the role of the heart and the role of my connection, the role of who I am in relationship to this, to the Lord within the heart. So yeah, there is a beautiful little story that Prabhupada tells. I think it's Bhaktisiddhanta. He, in reference to this verse, that 10:10, Satata, Tesham Satata, that verse. And so this story, I think many of you know the story. It's about the monkey and the alligator. And so the monkey is on the tree, right? And the alligator comes to the shore, sees the monkey, tells the monkey, oh, my wife really wants to see you. My wife wants to meet you. you know, and of course we all want to be acknowledged and appreciated in this world, even if we are a monkey, you know. And so the monkey thought, oh, his wife wants to meet me. How wonderful, how beautiful. So he comes down off the tree and gets on the alligator's back, and the alligator starts taking the monkey, you know, in the water. And so then as they're going, though, the monkey got a little curious, and he said, why does your wife want to meet me? Well, what's the reason for that? And the alligator said, well, she wants your heart. She wants to get your heart. And the monkey was like, oh, okay. I wish you had told me that before. Well, you know what? I left my heart on the tree. So I have my heart. And of course, the alligator is not very smart. So then he says, okay, I will take you back to the tree to get your heart. And so he goes with him to the alligator goes back to the shore, and of course the monkey's very smart. He jumps off the alligator and runs back up in the tree, and there the alligator is stuck, right? Cannot get the monkey's heart for his wife. So living in this material world is like this. We give our hearts, and sometimes we forget that Krishna is within the heart. The Lord is living within the heart. The Lord is directing us in every situation. And sometimes we give our hearts in very unhealthy situations. You know, sometimes we give our hearts even to other people that may not understand, you know, the Lord that's there within the heart. So it's important to be very careful about to whom we give our hearts. It's important to understand this verse where Krishna is explained to Arjuna, to those who constantly devoted to serving me with love, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So someone that is constantly engaging their hearts in wanting to understand the Lord, constantly engaging their hearts in devotional service, whether that's we're engaging in devotional service in the secular world, which most people are, or we're engaging in devotional service simply, you know, within our own households, or within our own community, or whatever, however we're engaging in devotional service, the supreme personality of Godhead, the Lord, is looking for that love from us in the heart. He's looking, so how are we giving our hearts, you know, to whatever it is that we're engaging in, remembering that everything is to be offered back in the service of the Lord, remembering that everything we do actually in glorification of the Lord. Everything we do is to increase that love and that awareness of the Lord. So be careful with our hearts. Our hearts are very precious. You know, our hearts are been given to us when we think of the Virat Rupa and the heart of the Virat Rupa, right? The heart of the Virat Rupa, we say, Prabhupada says it's one. So this heart is there in the Virat Rupa. And this heart is there within us. Each and every one of us have been given this heart to be able to, we have this heart with us to understand how to make different choices in our lives. So it's important to only, if we, you know, as we endeavor to engage in bhakti, to remember to only give our hearts to Krishna. You know, this heart, not knowing, not knowing, and also even when we know, even when we kind of know philosophically, we may still give our hearts, you know, to other people or other situations other than Krishna. And yeah, how do we fully give our hearts to Krishna? How do we do that? And this whole verse is about that process. This entire section actually is about how to give our hearts to the Supreme Lord. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that is important in our lives is to have that awakening of our love for the Lord. And that comes through giving our hearts. And so, yeah, as I was saying, this again, I'm quoting Bhakti Tirtha a lot because he speaks about this theme quite a bit in terms of the Lord within the heart. And he quotes a lot about this process of surrender. As you know, he wrote a book on surrender. And one of the things he says in protecting our hearts, one of the ways we make sometimes we get stuck in the process of bhakti is because we hold back so much as we think we're surrendering. However, as in that mood, in that thinking that we're surrendering, oftentimes we're just holding back so much. And he said, he explains that surrender is not what we say or do. So surrender is not me or any of us being able to quote verses and speak the philosophy eloquently. That may be there, and that certainly can be helpful. However, that's not real surrender. Surrender is not even all the things that we might do. He explains that surrender is more about what we're holding back. And so that we can always see in our lives. What am I holding back? How am I holding back? And that will be our disconnection. Dave, I see you're really tired. I'm feeling for you. I know you have long nights, and I'm just really appreciating how you come and you sit and you open your hearts to listen, even though the rest of body life airs is saying, no, 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 just take rest. So I'm just really appreciating you being here and the service that you do. That is your attempt to open your heart. And I appreciate that so much. It actually inspires me. Anyway, yeah, it's important to do everything as Sahadev is doing, as though everything that we do is for Krishna and Srila Prabhupada and our respective gurus, right? That's one way to open our hearts, is to remember whatever it is that I'm doing, it's for the pleasure of my spiritual master. So Sahadev, and I'm just going to keep speaking to you just so you stay awake. Sahadev's sitting here every day. Every day he does this service, right? And he works all night long. And so to not be able to sleep, and that's very hard on the body. It's actually shutting down some life airs that are very vital for your bodily existence. And so, yeah, so Sahadev does this because he does this as an offering to his spiritual master. And just that act, one simple act of service is Tesham Satata Yutanam, rendering that service with love, with devotion. That is seen by the Supreme Lord. So Krishna consciousness is not based on any kind of ambiguity because Maya is just really strong, as we all know. You know, the material energy is just so intense and so strong and so distracting for us. We're placed in this material realm solely to be able to, solely to play out all these different desires that we may have in this realm until we are fortunate enough to meet some very surrendered soul, like our various spiritual master, like Srila Prabhupada, who can help to awaken our hearts. So this, until that time, or even during that time, we may still be faced with so many aspects of Maya. However, because we have now knowledge, and because we understand that Krishna is guiding us in our hearts, the Lord is guiding us, we can then make decisions, we can then make choices that can benefit our lives. And the last point I want to make about this verse that I thought was important, Prabhupada gave us here the Bhagavad Gita 240, the guaranteed path to self-realization. He mentions that in this verse. He says, this is what's guaranteed. In this advancement, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So we're all living in fear in the material world. As Kali Yuga advances, there will be more and more and more and more things to be fearful about. And as we as we see these fears, as we see these fears within ourselves, those fears are actually impetus for us to be able to look at, to be able to look into our hearts, look at our hearts and see, what am I doing? How am I embracing this science of bhakti? What is it that I do to embrace the science of bhakti? And so in the verse, there was a mention about the deity, how in one sense, we think that the deity is made of wood or stone or whatever, but we know that Krishna enters into the deity form. So similarly, when we look at the universal form of the Lord, we may think, well, it's material. You know, we see the mountains, we see the sky, we see all the elements are there, right? It's all material. But we know that that's not, any of that is possible unless the Lord entered into it. And so when we think about the deity is important, so important for us to be able to access who we truly are, like our real identity, our pure identity. The Lord is so kind, he entered into the deity form in order to help us with that, even though, as I said, the deities appear to be material. There are many people, even those devotees that are coming new to Krishna consciousness, they may not have any understanding about the deity, and they may not understand how the Lord can enter into the deity form. So what helps with that? So this is going back to the one devotee that can make a difference. What helps with that is the devotee that is sincere, the devotee that's intentional, the devotees that is exemplary in their worship of the deity. So in any community where we have a temple, where we have deities, it is so important to have devotees that are pure in their service to the Lord. You know, we have seen, and I don't know about, well, yeah, I lived in Africa, so I have some idea, but in America more so. I hadn't experienced that so much in Africa. But in America, you know, the devotees, because they're not connected so much, sometimes, again, not to criticize devotees, but sometimes because we may lose this connection with the Lord within our hearts, sometimes we can do activities, you know, with the deities that's just not very exemplary. And I know I've lived having lived here in America, there are many different things, many different stories of devotees that, you know, may have done things in the presence of the deities that's just not very exemplary, or may not appear to be connected, that the Lord is there within the deity form. So it takes that one devotee that's very sincere, like Dhruva Maharaj, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Yudhishthira Maharaj, like Queen Kunti, like so many of these examples. One devotee that has the sincerity, the dedication, the devotion to care for the deities in such a way that they can help to inspire others to understand the Lord in the deity form. In that same way, we can understand, you know, that the Lord is within our hearts. We can understand the universal form and understand that all these material elements are, that's what they are. They're material. They're not actually spiritual. However, they come from the Lord. The Lord manifests that for our benefit, in order for us to be able to access Him. And so this, yeah, in this world, you know, in this material world, everyone is trying to be a deity. Everybody, most people in the material world think they're a deity. However, we see that at some point, you know, when some big catastrophe happened, then those persons may start realizing, oh, I'm not a deity. Let me try to find the source of who I really am. And Srila Prabhupada has so beautifully created in this environment we live in. He's so beautifully given us these deity forms of the Lord, so that we can worship those forms, and we can make those forms available, you know, to people in the world that are faced with different catastrophes and need shelter. So the shelter is how the Lord's creation manifests for us. It's really to give us shelter, so that we can eventually just, you know, move through all the different material impediments that may be there. So I'm going to close with that. There's this verse that Prabhupada quotes in the purport, which I think is important for all of us to remember. Krishna says, "I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Danta, and I am the knower of the Vedas." So Krishna is the source of everything. And Krishna is the source of the universal form, the Virat Rupa. Krishna is the source of everything. Krishna is the source of the Paramatma within our hearts. And so it behooves us, to not dive into our sadhana. And as I said, I'm speaking to myself, to not really take shelter of our sadhana, because in this Kali Yuga, that's our only hope. That's our only hope, to understand anything about the Lord is by hearing, by chanting, by sharing Krishna consciousness, and by becoming very protective of our hearts, very protective of our hearts. Okay, my dear devotees, thank you so very much. I'm closing for today, making life simple for Sahadev Prabhu. Saha.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother Rajalila, for waking me up. This is Jiv Jago Gora Chandra Bole.
Jago.
Kuta Nidra
Yes.
Maya. I was sleeping on the laps of Maya. Well, dear devotees, of course, Mother, we can't thank you enough, like I said initially, for being with us and sharing your love and wisdom with us. The purport is very intriguing. How Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport. The text itself is very beautiful, but the purport is actually more intriguing. And it's amazing how you kind of dissect it into pieces, bits and pieces for somebody like me to be able to swallow and assimilate and hopefully get some nutrients from it. So dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute, to speak, or to share. Hare Krishna. As Srila Prabhupada was describing the 10 different airs, five, every air is subtle, but 5 of them are not as subtle as the other 5. And I was thinking of the air that is responsible for passing foul air. And I was thinking to myself, why can't we all become yogis so that we can control this air when we need to control it? And these airs, I was wondering, because I have seen a couple of videos like you were saying, where there are some yogis, they know how to manipulate the airs in their bodies and relieve themselves of certain ailments. I mean, all this knowledge is there, but somehow Srila Prabhupada did not dwell much emphasis on them. Even though Srila Prabhupada is talking about them nicely here, but he did not dwell much emphasis on them. And I'm just wondering why something that can be of help to our health wasn't much discussed by Srila Prabhupada. If you may share ideas.
Yeah, thanks, Sahaprabhu. So in my understanding, there are places where Prabhupada mentions Ayurveda, which is the science of understanding these life airs.
Mm.
And he may not have emphasized as much, but it is he does really speak about Ayurveda, and he often speaks about ways that to care for the body. We see that Prabhupada himself, right? He used to get massages every single day, which was a way to help with the air, with the life airs that are there within the body. So by studying the science of Ayurveda, which is a part of the Vedas, we will understand more about these life airs. And as you were speaking about these mystic yogis, I think in present day, I remember personally having association with His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who, as you know, had lived as a yogi with yogis for many, many years. And His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj before Radhanath Swami wrote his book, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to share with us about some of these qualities of Radhanath Swami, that he had some of these, he had acquired some of these kind of mystic potencies living with mystic yogis. However, we see the power of bhakti, right? When the power of bhakti is when Radhanath Swami was sitting, with thousands of people all the way in the back. Well, I don't know about thousands, but definitely more hundreds of people all the way in the back in that park in Mumbai, and the devotees were there doing kirtan new in Mumbai, right? All the American devotees were there, and I heard the story from Jamuna, Mother Jamuna. And Prabhupada could see Radhanath Swami all the way out in the back of all these people and called him on the stage. That was Prabhupada's mystic powers. You know what I mean? Like he had so much power from bhakti that he could see this mystic yogi that was ready for Krishna consciousness, and he called him and brought him on the stage, to be with him. And so Prabhupada's mission was really to give the highest mystic power, which is the power of bhakti. And we see that with our own spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, our revered spiritual master. He also had quite a few mystic tendencies, quite a few mystic potencies. However, what was most prominent, as we see in his life, his legacy, was that his intention in life was to bring people to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and to introduce them to bhakti. It wasn't, even though he did have some mystic potencies, he wouldn't use that. So, because it's temporary, right? It's still temporary. Even if we get to use mystic potencies and get all the way to the planet of Lord Brahma, we're still gonna end up at some point trying to figure it out again. So so that's why Srila Prabhupada. But however, the science of Ayurveda is there for us to understand the life years. And just reading Dhruva Maharaj's story, going in depth with it, we'll understand these more about the life years. That's my understanding, Saha. Does anyone else have an understanding that you'd like to share? This is where I like to open up to. This is why I like to do these classes, because I get to hear from all my God brothers and God sisters. And I love that. This is my association, my time to associate with all of you. So please, 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 share. We're all individuals, and we all have gifts. We've all been given gifts from our gurus, from the Lord, and we all have our understanding of the philosophy. No one is more. I don't know, but maybe there are some of you here that's really truly elevated. And if you are, then please share. I think all of us are wanting to understand. Otherwise, I'll call on some.
Thank you so much, Mother, for answering my question, and more especially about Radhanath Maharaj's pastime with Srila Prabhupada. Very fascinating. But I'm sorry to kind of embarrass you in a little way, but your humble self, you also have this mystical energy. And one of such mystical energies is that, see, I'm seeing Utpala Prabhu is sitting here smiling. This wonderful devotee has been a ghost for quite a long time, but he's become a human being again today here. All by the mystical potency of your humbleness. So Hare
All by,
Krishna. Hare Krishna,
all by,
Utpala Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
all by the mercy of all of you and by the mercy of our grace, Rajalila Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna to all of you. Happy
Thank
to
you,
be here.
Utpala Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for being here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Salika Prabhu, please give me unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mother VRAJALILA. Thank you very much for the beautiful class. As always, you always inspire us in so many ways. There is something you said in the course of the lecture that caught my attention. And we see a lot of that happening in movement in recent times. You talked about we should be careful about who we give our heart to. And I was wondering, maybe you could expatiate a little bit on that, because the whole process of Krishna consciousness is about giving ourselves to a representative of God. And sometimes this representative of God, because we're coming from the darkest region of material ignorance that pervading our senses, we cannot actually, most of the time, identify who is who. And then sometimes we find ourselves giving up ourselves to someone, sometimes who doesn't really represent what we aspire for. So I would like you to expatiate on this point a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. As I said, revered spiritual master, he spends so much time, on these points about the heart. And yeah, he loved to talk about creation and how we are interacting, in this world. He was very expert. I believe that's where we would see his mystical potency, is how he would be able to help a person that's fully engaged materially to understand the material energy and then get to that person's heart. However, yes, Prabhupada says there are the cheaters and the cheated, right? And there are some people that do want to get cheated, and there are many cheaters out there. So in terms of someone that's very sincere and very dedicated, their intention is to really want to connect with the Lord, awaken their hearts to the Lord. They may have, they may meet someone, or they may connect with a person that minimizes or don't understand their intention. They may meet with someone that person might be a cheater because perhaps, they have challenges with whatever their senses. These, as we hear about these different senses, the senses are very challenging. And so, and the senses challenge us in all kinds of ways. We're just doing now this book on transforming lust into love from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. We're spending a month studying that in our Vaishnavi group. And so, yes, it's, people are affected and with material energy in so many different ways. However, what we have seen is if we stay focused on our intention, if we stay sincere with our intention, the Lord and the heart will protect us. Even if we have to experience some cheating, if we don't fall into that category of being offensive, resentful, so disturbed that we go into depression about it, then the Lord will be there for us. If we simply stay focused on whatever small intention we may have, whatever little, what did Krishna says, in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. So even if we only have a small desire to want to know the Lord, if we hang on with that, then the Lord will certainly protect us, because we will be protected by experience. We will learn like, oh, okay, I gave my heart in that situation. It did not work out. And we learn the experience that we've had will enable us to have the fortification to not get in situations like that again, especially if we go deeper in our sadhana and we go deeper in our desire to know and love Krishna. And we've seen that, right? I mean, we've seen that. We've seen devotees that, you know, have been cheated. Yeah, or cheating is a big word, but however, you know, they have had their fate challenged by situations or maybe people even. And we see sometimes though we have different types of aspiring devotees. Some aspiring devotees get stuck and they are not able to move out of that stuckness, perhaps because of that energy of false ego sometimes hurt from the experience they may have had. And we also see some devotees, they may get stuck for a period of time, and then with the support and help of other devotees. That's one important aspect of going through grief and loss, is to always reach out for help, reach out for help. So when we reach out for help, that help will actually give us will increase our desire to want to go on in the process. And then we will learn to forgive, and we will learn to not hold on to the resentments and the grudges and the whatever may be there. I can share that from my own experience. It's you know, I've had so many different experiences in 47 years of devotees in different ways. And I remember, you know, I still have memories of situation where, yeah, I thought, wow, how could this happen? However, and I may have gotten even stuck, you know, for some time. However, as I kept in the process, Bhaktitirtha Maharaj's grace, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami wrote me a note once. It was just a small note on a Jagannath card. And he says, at this point of your Krishna consciousness, it's just about perseverance. Perseverance, you know? And that word has stuck with me. Just persevere. Okay, it's going on. I don't like it. This seems crazy. You know, why this person doing this, that, whatever, whatever. And as I persevered through that situation, with the hurt that may have been there, I saw like Krishna helped me to come to a place where I can genuinely say, I really, really appreciate this person today. You know, I really, really do. I can see all the goodness in the person. That same person who during that period when I was stuck, you know, I was just like resentful and angry, and those emotions are necessary sometimes. We need to go through that. So that's yeah, that's what in terms of our service, that's what we do. We facilitate devotees that are going through those periods. You know, and I'll close with this point. I heard this recently. It sounded like something His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj would say, but it was said by somebody else, that life is when one door opens, another door closes. And we hear that all the time. When one door closes, another one opens. However, no one talk to us so much about the hallways of life. In the hallways of life is where we experience all the different things that maybe, you know, that's gonna help challenge us to really appreciate when one door closes, another one opens. We must be prepared to live in that hallway of life. And in the hallway of life, there is pain, there is anxiousness, there is anxiety, there is, you know, anger, there's all these emotions that come from things that people are going to do because there's so much conflicted with material energy. And so we gotta brace ourselves for this hallway of life. And the only way I've learned to brace myself with the hallway of life when it comes, and I pray to Krishna, please don't put me in a hallway anytime soon. But when I'm in that hallway of life, the only shelter that I ever find is to be able to hear, which means I keep reading and I write, and I keep writing. I read and I write. That's why I was thinking, Uttapana Prabhu, I'm so much grateful for you because I'm endeavoring to write a book, and You know, it's really hard. It's hard to do that. However, it's such a peaceful and joyful experience to put things on paper. So we all got to see what is it that's going to support us when we go through that hallway of life. All of us need to check with that. How will I be supported to move through this? Otherwise, we end up devastated, depressed, just, you know, because grief and loss is not, they're real. So they're real. They're like people. I hope that's helpful, Salika Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, rich answer to my question. While you were speaking, it also reminds me about a lecture Gurudev gave in 1996 in Lagos when we were Jala Jata. Something happened that there was some kind of leadership meeting. For whatever reason, some of the leaders locally decided that Grihastas should leave the temple. And when Gurudev came and he was told about this, it was so heavy, and because he was so pained that his name was used, and the local leadership were not representing him as they were supposed to be. So he became furious. But of all what happened, what I captured, which has become memory for me, is that he said this word, and I'm going to quote him directly. He said, your guru can cheat you, your leader can cheat you, your godbrother can cheat you, anyone can cheat you, but Krishna will never cheat you. And it aligns with what you're saying. So I've kept that in my head since that, of all what happened and what he said in that lecture that morning during the Bhagavatam class when he was responding to this situation. So that statement is made that your guru cannot cheat you, your guru even can cheat you, your god brothers can cheat you, your leader can cheat you, your friends can cheat you, but Krishna will never cheat you. And that's sticking to my head. And I've kept it in my head since then. So when you're explaining this and also sharing your personal experience, it just reminded me of that particular statement of Gurudev. Thank you so much. Beautiful answer.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, and that verse of Prabhupada, right? Tesham Satata Yuktanam, that if we just stay somehow devoted to serving the Lord, serving the devotees, then Krishna will, in the heart, the Lord in the heart will give us that understanding where we can stay connected with him. So it's on our part, we definitely have to make endeavors, and at the same time really depend on the grace and the mercy of those pure souls, those pure devotees that are there. And not to expect that we won't get cheated. Sometimes we come to spiritual life and we think, this is it. Nothing else is going to happen now. I'm safe. I'm everything, you know. Yeah, sometimes people don't realize it's when we come to spiritual life that we really start getting tested. This is our time of test now. This is our time to see, well, what do you really want? Do you want material life or do you want Krishna? So yeah, Salika Prabhu, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. You know, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami's Vyasa Puja is coming up soon. Of course, we know that his solar calendar date is on the 25th. And so that's why I've been very intentional in sharing things that he has been saying, not because I'm wanting to be fanatical, just because I'm trying to be more intentional in remembering that his birth date is coming up for us, for the world, really, because he gave the world, you know, so much. And I just want to be reminded of that. So thank you, Salika, for reminding us of something that he said. And I'm hoping that, you know, in the classes, we can all share something that he said in the classes to come to remind us, you know, to help everyone remember this amazing personality that gave everything in the service of Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you, devotees. Salika Prabhu, thank you for your questions. And Mother, thank you so much for the beautiful responses and answers. He who kills with the sword dies by the sword. And because I am myself a cheat I know that I'm going to be cheated sometime along the line. And therefore, I try to be very judicious and cautious when I'm dealing with people. Because I'm a cheat, so I can easily be cheated. Even though I'm cheating, I do not want to be cheated. So I always try to play it safe. I had also gone to Gurudev reluctantly because I didn't want to go to him and then put myself in trouble. Because when I knew he was going to leave us, I wanted to go see him and ask him what he would want me to do in his physical absence. And Gurudev talking about mystical power. He knows me all along. For some reason, I have always been fighting Krishna. I always fight Krishna. And I always say, I wish Krishna was my son. I will really talk to him very nicely, but he is not my son, so I cannot do that. Therefore, Gurudev, knowing who I am, told me, just love Krishna. So this feisty attitude I have towards Krishna, which I shouldn't because I'm nobody, I'm just a useless individual, it's still there, but it's died down a lot. Because I also try to think of what Gurudev told me, just love Krishna. So it's very simple, but it's a challenge for me because I'm always fighting Krishna. Why didn't you do this? Why did you let this happen? I'm always asking why? But I'm not asking myself why I did not do this for Krishna. So thank you for bringing in the Gurudev effect in today's lecture. And I don't know if any devotee has something to share or ask before we call it a day today.
So I wanted to say, Dr. Hassan is there, he has his hand up, but I wanted to share that, yeah, we question Krishna often because the pain of dealing with the realities of the situations in our lives, what sometimes comes on our plate, is very difficult to deal with that pain, and that pain of life that comes. So yeah, then it's, if a child is experiencing some pain, they'll go to the father and the mother. Like, why mother, why father? And the mother and father needs to be able to explain, right? And so Krishna is so kind. He arranged that we can hear why in his book. So even when we hear it, it takes time to be with the pain, and yeah, that pain I see that pain with so many people. So many people are in pain, and in pain more now than ever. And people are in pain just because they don't know what's going to be happening in their lives. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Prabhu.
Well, that is an excellent diagnosis of my problem. Thank you so much. Dr. Hassan, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Please can we accept my respectful obeisances, all glory to Gurudev, all glory to Prabhupada, and all glory to the wonderful and all devotees. I'm so happy to see Lotus face again. And thank you so much for the wonderful class. I don't have a question, but I have a request. I wanted to call you even yesterday, and I know you'll be here today. So I want to ask if it's possible to call you after the class. If
Please.
It's okay.
Of course. Yes, I'm very happy to be able to be of service to you and His Holiness Bhaktadhir Damodar Maharaj. Yes. I love that picture behind you, by the way.
Yes. And this is one question I wanted to ask. I'm so attracted to this picture because You know, I was always watching Little Krishna, and all the pictures of this Krishna. This is what is so attractive to me. I have it in my house, and everywhere I go, he's looking at me. I can't go out without saying goodbye to him. So I have it everywhere.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Krishna is stealing your heart, stealing butter, stealing.
Yeah, the thief of Vrindavan. I love this picture so much. I don't know why, but they don't have it in the deity form. Only the picture.
In India, they have everything.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you'll find it.
Yes.
However, you can get the same blessings and the same awareness from the picture, as long as you're sincere.
Yes, thank you so much. So please, I'll call you after the class.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
All right, Hare Krishna. Thank you, all devotees. I hate to
Saha, can I say this
people.
one thing? Because I maybe.
Yes, please. I wanted to call on Lauren.
Oh yeah, I might have said Utpala's name incorrectly, so I wanted to correct that. It's Utpala, and he's written a wonderful book. Yeah, Utpala. He's written a wonderful book about His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, and I'm trying to follow in your footsteps. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Okay, Lauren. Hey, Lauren.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hey. Nice to see you, my love. Well, you're not on camera, but it's nice you're here.
Thank you, Mata. I'm happy to be here.
Do you have something to share, Lauren?
I think I'm just grateful for this class. I kind of randomly joined. Like, I read the WhatsApp group that I'm in with Mother VRAJALILA, and it was like 2 minutes before the class started. So I felt kind of like called to join. And I'm glad that I did because, yeah, like, one takeaway that I had was to really just focus on my sadhana, and then as long as I do that, like everything else will come. Particularly like being able to understand like scripture. And then Mother VRAJALILA had said, be careful like who you give your heart to. And I think like a big thing that I took away from that was to just give my heart to Krishna, and my heart will be protected then. And I think that if I give my heart to Krishna, like naturally, like I'll be able to give my heart to, you know, certain devotees. And then there was something else. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank right now, but those are like the main things that I took today. Oh, and then towards the end, just like when we were kind of talking about like being stuck, I really resonated with that. Just kind of certain situations that happened like a few years ago, I realized that I was still holding on to like the pain and resentment. And so I don't know, I'm feeling inspired to let those things go. And even during this class, like I was starting to like let go of some of those feelings. They're still there, but I don't know. I'm realizing that it's definitely a process, but I think that that's been holding me back in my spiritual journey, actually. And so that kind of came to light today. Haribol.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lauren Devi. Mother Raj, do you have something to share on Lauren's? It's very interesting, her sharing, because it reminded me of how even though a sponge has so many holes, yet it's able to hold water. How beautiful. So we may think we are nobody. We may think we are nobody. Of course, we are nobody. But because we are in touch with Krishna, we are somebody. And whatever somebody says pertaining to Krishna has such very deep positive effect on us. And so thank you for sharing. Mother Raj, back to you.
I just want to share with Lauren how grateful I am for her, you know, and yeah, it makes me very I was feeling this emotion of two emotions of happiness, and was happy to hear you share your takeaways, Lauren. And also I was having this emotion of gratitude to my spiritual master, that there are times when I'm like, I don't know if I, whatever. I may question my own self about what I understand. Like this whole section on creation and giving class, I was like, oh God, what can I talk about? I don't know, Krishna. I'm not crying out, And then I hear you speaking and I'm like, well, Gurudev, thank you. So I just want to, I want to thank you that I can thank my spiritual master. Thank you very much. And thanks, Srila Prabhupada, for these kinds of verses.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you, all devotees. Mother, you were talking about the deity worship and how important that is. Srila Prabhupada also stressed so much importance on deity worship. And we have Tribhuvanath Prabhu here. He's a chief pujari. I'm sure he's still in India and he's here blessing us today. So Tribhuvanath, thank you for being here. As always, Hare Krishna. Salika, do you have anything to say? Otherwise, we'll bring this to a final close. Well, it seems devotees are very much satisfied. Thank you so much, Mother. And on this note, we're going to humbly request you all devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our deepest appreciation for our mother, Mother VRAJALILA, sharing her love and wisdom with us today. Jai, you may all unmute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare.
Vancha
Panchakalpatarubhyascha,
Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha, Janama Pavanebhyo, Vibhyo Namo Namaha, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki.
Quando a Charles La Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Bhakti Tita Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.